All right, this week I want to talk about how do you continue to show up when life is just serving you up a bunch of crap, that it is one thing after the other. The truth is, this happens to all of us. And if you are watching me, then welcome. Chances are you also are in a position where you are serving other people. You are a helper. And so, what do you do? And so, I want to give you some strategies when life basically just stinks. It's just one thing after the other. And you still have a full day ahead where you have to show up front facing and be kind and polite in spite of feeling like you are being completely dumped on with this. All right. So I want to talk about how there are five things that can happen to us in life. There are only five. And I demonstrate this with what I call my thought tree. And before I show you the tree, I want to outline the five things that can happen to us in life. And you may be thinking, Cledra, there's more than five things that can happen to me. And I have been doing this work a very long time. And I would challenge you to think there the five things can fall into these categories. The first is a circumstance. A circumstance is a neutral situation where everyone would agree that, for example, a circumstance is I am a woman. Like, okay, and that is a fact. That's not something that could be challenged. And I know that seems like a simple example, but just stay with me. And after the circumstance, there is a thought. And we have thoughts that run on default, and we can have thoughts that run by design. And most of us operate by default thoughts, the default thoughts. Like when I said I was a woman, I could say I'm a Black woman. You may have some thoughts by default that you say about that, that Black women are brilliant, or, Black women are lazy, whatever your perspective is on life. That could be a default thought. We also have the option to have designer thoughts. I'll get to that later. However, thoughts are like electrical impulses. So I want you to imagine that thoughts are like you're sitting in a restaurant and you're going to order up a chemical cocktail of how you're going to feel. Because when your thoughts, these invisible sentences fire in our mind, they do create this chemical cascade in our body. And then we verbally say, I feel a certain way. I feel ticked off. I feel angry. I feel sad. I feel depressed. I feel unmotivated. Those feelings come from what we're thinking. Now, most of us have been taught that our feelings come from the circumstances in our life. However, that's not true, at least not all of the time. So then our thoughts lead to our feelings. Our feelings then lead to our actions or inactions. When I'm feeling motivated, there are things that I will do. When I'm feeling depressed, there's actions that I would like to take that I'm not taking, right? And so then whatever we habitually do or don't do leads to every result in our life. Now, I know I went through that quickly, but now I want to give it to you, show it to you visually. So, now that we have the five things, I am holding up a model of an apple tree. And this is part of my signature coaching. It's called the thought tree. And so the circumstance is reflected by the soil on this apple tree. So if you're listening to me and you're not watching, I want you to just imagine an apple tree, and there's obviously soil that the apple tree is in. And so the soil would reflect the circumstances. Now, we're all planted in circumstances each day and each moment of our lives. And so above the soil are our thoughts. And this is where it's important to understand, what are you thinking? And the reason that matters is because what we think then leads to the trunk of the tree. Think about the trunk of your body to how you feel. It's not the circumstance that you're planted in. Like last week, I was planted in a lot of circumstances that I had the thought of, this stinks. This is so bad. This is horrible. Right. And it's not that I wanted to change those. I'm going to get to that. The thoughts that we have can be by default or they can be by design. And the way that you know that it's by default is you're just letting thoughts just come into your mind without any kind of intervention, without any kind of interception. You're not trying to intercept these thoughts at all. You're just allowing your mind to just have at it. And that's what you don't want to do. That's what you don't want to do. So, again, our thoughts lead to our feelings reflected by the trunk of the tree. Think trunk of your body. Now, those feelings then lead to branches on the tree. Those are actions. The actions support fruit, which is representing the result in every area of your life, whether it's your weight, your finances, your relationships, your any result is reflected by fruit, right? So, why does this matter? Why does it matter? The circumstance, the thought, the feeling, the action, the result. Why does this matter when we feel like life is serving up a crap sandwich for us? It matters because we want to immediately go to, what do I want to choose to think about this? So last week, as things were just bombarding me on every side, something challenging happened to someone I care very deeply about. And then there was something else, and there was something else, and then there was something else. And I had to ask myself, I had to pause, and this is the intervention, pause and interrupt the thoughts that this is horrible. And it doesn't mean that I was wrong about it's horrible. Thoughts aren't about right or wrong. It's an assessment of, is this supportive or not? So factually, in my mind, or I should say, my opinion is yes, the things that were happening were horrible. However, the more I allowed my mind to stay on that thought that things are horrible, the worse I felt. The worse I felt in terms of fatigued and sad, then I didn't want to do any of my work. And so, as I stayed in that space of not doing my work, the result I created was not having the outcomes I wanted, which led to a loop of feeling like, okay, and now I'm not even able to complete what I need to complete for work. So I was keeping myself in this endless loop by choosing to hold on to this thought that this is horrible. Hear me again. It's not that I'm negating or dismissing that these circumstances, at least my opinion of them, are horrible. It's that the impact of choosing that thought and not interrupting it was causing me to compound the difficulty of my life. I found myself outside of Publix, that's the grocery store here in North Carolina, and I was like, I'm just going to go in there and get birthday cake. Okay, it ain't nobody's birthday. Well, I'm sure it's somebody's, but it's nobody I knew. And that's the old version of me wanting to cope with difficulty or things being horrible by numbing myself with sugar. And so I sat there and I cried for a minute. And I was like, no, I just don't want to feel sad. I don't want to think about the what ifs that my mind was trying to pepper me with, because the what ifs outcomes would make me even feel even worse. And so in that moment, and this is what inspired that video, I had to go back to what I teach and it's what I practice. It's looking at, what thought do I want to choose on purpose? What thought do I want to design for myself? So instead of this is horrible, the thought that I chose is, I have what it takes to make it through this day. I have what it takes to make it through this day. And that led to a feeling of determination, which led to me getting in more action into for what I needed to do in terms of my workouts, in terms of making a video, in terms of doing the things I needed to do for my business. And so I share this with you because we all have days where we're like, this is a bunch of this. And so you want to look at, while this thought, what I'm thinking may be right, it may not be supportive. And that's what I want you to challenge yourself with today for this video. Am I thinking something that's supportive? And if the answer is no, then I want you to take some time and ask, what would be a more supportive thought that I can hold on to just for this day, or maybe even just for the next hour, or just until lunchtime? All right. Because I don't know about you, but I've been through some days that included a bunch of this that I couldn't think about the whole day. I had to sometimes take that thing an hour at a time, a moment at a time. And if that's you, know that I get it. And so ask yourself, what can I believe just for the next hour? And then repeat, and then repeat. So that's what I have for you on this episode of The Next Level because listen, there's always next. I'm excited. Make sure you stay tuned for the upcoming videos that I have because I'm going to be doing a series on how to more information about how to reset yourself emotionally so that you can stay in positive action and how you can learn how to choose well even when you don't feel well. Because it's in these moments when we are feeling like life is serving it up that we typically have these coping strategies that aren't helpful, whether we're over drinking, overeating, porn, overspending, totally distracting ourselves with a whole, hours and hours of Netflix. And nothing wrong with any of those things, except when we do them in excess and they cause us personal harm. So, this is the real work of being able to reach your next level. It's not about the strategy, it's about the story that you're telling yourself. That was in my first video when I started this How to Start Strong After Betrayal. Sometimes the betrayal isn't another person, sometimes the betrayal is how we're thinking about what we're going through. That we can betray ourselves and our progress because we are telling a story that just compounds the difficulty of what we're experiencing. All right. It's so good to see you another week. And listen, I am sending you so much love. If this is the kind of week you are experiencing and this is what you feel like you're holding all week, I get it. Listen, I overstand. And I get that you can choose to design your thoughts one moment at a time. All right. Here's to your next level. I'll see you in the next video.